There's this saying, what gets scheduled gets done, and what gets measured gets improved. Those are great words to live by, both in your personal life and professional life. And that's how I want to set the tone and sentiment of this video, because the MTA measured something.
20-year needs assessment.
20-year vision needs for the next 20 years.
The MTA 20-year needs assessment. So what the heck is this? Why is it important? What does this mean for New York City Transit? And as citizens, what is our role? Those are the questions we're going to answer in this video, so keep watching. And if you've ever been late because of the subway, hit that like button for irony. My name is Thea and you're watching Urban Caffeine, a channel that talks about things we should concern ourselves with while living in New York City. If you like topics like these, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on so you won't miss future videos. So let's start from the beginning. What is the 20-year needs assessment and why is it important? Whether you ride New York Transit regularly or just from time to time, it doesn't take a group of experts writing several hundred pages of research to know that the transit in New York needs improvement. Elementary, my dear Watson, and indeed it is. And it's not just the subway, it's the buses, the commuter rails, the stations, the service centers, power stations, communication systems, and we can go on. While this statement is true beyond any reasonable doubt, it's still a vague statement. Ask any academic, when you approach something with a scientific mind, whether it's writing a paper, doing research, conducting an experiment, or whatever, you always start with the first step, which is to define the problem. Because we need to define the problem before we can think about what's needed to solve it. And once we know what's needed, we can come up with a plan on how to fulfill those needs in order to get to a solution. So insert the 20-year needs assessment document. At the MTA press conference, when this document was released, the speakers emphasized that
this is a different process. This is a detailed assessment of the MTA's entire network. It's never been done before.
How it was explained was before, departments would be given a budget and be told, here's your budget, assess your area, and make the necessary improvements. So what would happen is these departments would kind of retrofit the needed improvements into the budget. And so you end up with projects being under or overfunded. But by taking this data-driven approach of inventorying everything in the system, down to every yard switch, every cable, and even every telephone, giving each item a rating based on how reliable or unreliable they are, and calculating the cost of projects that will repair or replace all the unreliable assets, this provides a starting point on conversations on a lot of things, like what projects need to be prioritized, how much money needs to be raised, how to raise that money. This is a behemoth of a report. The report itself is 165 pages long, and the appendix that has the ratings on all the assets is 267 pages. You have to note, they inventoried 5.8 million assets that's worth $1.3 trillion. During the press conference, there was something they said that I thought was a good point. We own $1.3 million worth of assets. We should be putting money into this to maintain it. And this inventory, this entire inventory of everything is just mind-blowing to me, just because I can't imagine the amount of time and resources that went into this. And when I first skimmed this, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Well, I could believe what I was seeing, but it's just so jarring when it's just laid out in front of you. There was so much red. Almost everything needed to be either replaced or repaired. And one of the mind-blowing anecdotes that they shared at the press conference, and I have a link of the full video in the description, is the service station for the 3 train. The problem was that the car cannot properly fit in the service station, so people cannot go at the top to maintenance it properly, and there's not enough crawl space at the bottom, so people can't stay there for very long to service the train. So if you ride the 3 and it sucks, now you know why. So now what do we do with this? Along with defining the problem, this document also outlines what should be done in the next 20 years so that, according to them, the transit system in New York lasts for another 100 years. The recommendation was to first, fix what's broken, Then second is to improve, and third is to expand. A good analogy for this is instead of buying that shiny dishwasher, you kind of have to fix the pipes first and then look into buying a shiny new dishwasher. But this plan is not really a plan. It doesn't have details like how it's going to get funded, who's going to be in charge, and things like that. It's more like a roadmap of what should happen in the next 20 years so that New York Transit can have a bright future for decades to come. It's like saying we're going to Phoenix, Arizona next year for a vacation. That's the plan, but the details on are we flying, what airline to take, what hotel, how many days we're gonna be there, those things are not figured out yet. So it's the same with this. This document is just saying what should happen in the next 20 years, but in terms of leadership, funding, timeline, etc., the details aren't there. So in comes the capital program. Let's rewind a little bit. The capital program was started decades ago in the 80s, and it was meant to fund and execute significant projects within the New York Transit so that there's transit prosperity in the city. It mostly focused on maintaining, expanding, and modernizing. Since the 80s, we've had many capital programs. They are renewed periodically because, let's face it, times change and so do needs. The periods are usually 5 years long, and we are currently in the 2020 to 2024 capital program. The MTA is currently planning the next capital program, which starts in 2025. So this 20-year needs assessment report was made in order to inform the plan for 2025 and ideally the next 20 years. So basically, this assessment report is the guiding document on what to prioritize and what to raise money for. So just because we have this 20-year needs assessment report doesn't mean that everything's gonna get done, at least not right away. The 2025 capital plan will be published in the fall of next year, exactly a year from now. So let's think about this for a moment. We're in this disarray of transit in New York because we had a history of bad leadership and mismanaged funds. We've had things like bailing out ski resorts with MTA money, or getting the MTA in a lot of debt with private investors. Today, leadership is telling us, we're gonna fix this. But I can sense a lot of people are still burned from what happened in the past and are skeptical of anything that the MTA says or any reports that come out, for good reason. But the past has happened, we can't change it. However, the future is malleable. So what can we do to affect the future? First, we have to remember that 20 years is a very long time, and weirdly enough, it can happen in a flash. To give you an idea, 9/11 happened 22 years ago. And a lot of us still remember 9/11. So 20 years from now is gonna be here before we know it. 20 years is about 4 terms in government. So that means there's the possibility of 4 different administrations within this 20-year period. So we have to get good leadership in now, not just high leadership like governor and other high seats, but also local leaders, because in 5-10 years, those local leaders are gonna move up the ranks in government. And since terms are only 4 years at a time, government tends to have a short memory. So we have to hold our leaders accountable. We have to always remind leadership and say, hey, you inventoried this. You yourself said it needed fixing. So let's keep fixing it. So everyone, keep going to those town halls, keep making your opinions heard, keep voting responsibly, and share this video with someone you know. And with that, my question to you all, because I'm curious, what do you think the top project should be that the MTA needs to prioritize? Comment down below. For extra content and access to Discord, make sure you check out Patreon or the join button of this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next video, happy New Yorking.